قال محمد هو ابن مالك أحمد رب الله خير مالك مصليا على النبي المصطفى وآله المستكملين الشرفا وأستعين الله في ألف
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Okay, now I'm going to be going through this ayah, but before I do, I just want you to hear what a non-Muslim, he's supposedly an ex-Muslim, what he says about this particular ayah. So first of all, let's hear what he says.
Personally, I do find the Quran eloquent and moving in places, but I also find it weak and badly constructed in other places. This verse, for example, is, in my opinion, clumsy and poorly phrased. What do you think? من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره وقلبه مطمئن بالإيمان ولكن من شرح بالكفر صدرا فعليهم غضب من الله ولهم عذاب عظيم.
Okay, so you've heard that. So it's not well written, it's clumsy. Let's have a look and see if this is the case. So we're going to go through this ayah in detail and see if it is clumsy, as he says. First of all, this ayah was revealed in a certain context. It was revealed when the persecution against the Muslims was at a very high level. Some of the companions were being killed and tortured. So one of the companions, Ammar bin Yasir, he witnessed his mother and father being killed, and he was being tortured as well. And under this particular situation, he renounced Islam. People heard him. They said, Ammar has left Islam. And so this ayah was revealed in this circumstance. Now, when we're talking about balagha or rhetoric, a question we ask ourselves is, to whom is this addressed to primarily? Now, I use the word primarily because the ayah actually is spoken in more general terms. This is part of the nature of the Quran, where it takes a particular event and gives guidance on it, but makes it more general, so it can be applied in future circumstances. So one needs to take this into consideration when looking at this ayah. What the ayah first of all says, مَنْ كَفَرَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِهِ, whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief. And then what you expect is a response to this condition. So it says, whoever does this, then something will happen. That's what you expect. But that's not what's happening in the ayah. So you expect here, over here, you'd expect what's known as a jawab. And where the jawab is over here. This fa, and then what comes after it. فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. So here there's no jawab. Now the question is, why is that the case? And what we have actually is an exception here. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ. What I suspect this person is saying is that this is not eloquent, in that you wouldn't expect a condition without its jawab or response. What he would probably expect is something like, let's look at this. Like this, for example, in Surat Al it talks about those who do not invoke with Allah another deity, or kill the soul which Allah has forbidden, except by right, and do not commit unlawful sexual intercourse. And whoever should do that, so here this is the condition, وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ يَلْقَ أَثَامًا. Whoever does so will meet a penalty. يُضَاعَفْ لَهُ الْعَذَابُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَيَخْلُدْ فِيهِ مُهَانًا. And then comes the exception. إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ وَآمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا. Except those who repent, believe, and do righteous works. What I suspect is Hassan wants it to be in this way. What he probably wanted was مَنْ كَفَرَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِهِ وَشَرَحَ بِالْكُفْرِ صَدْرًا فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبَهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. So that's what he probably thinks is more eloquent, or what it should be. But what he fails to realize wording it this way is more appropriate to the actual siyaq. In Arabic we call it siyaq, or the situation. And the situation is, as we said, about a companion of the Prophet uttering words of disbelief. And this was revealed to actually show that there was no sin upon him, that he still had faith. And the Prophet ﷺ affirmed this to his companions. Now the question is, why was it worded in this way? That's the question. I've done a lot of research in a number of tafsir books. Some of them include the tafsir of Imam al-Tabari, Al-Bahr al-Muhit, by the great scholar from Andalus, Abu Hayyan, Al-Tahrir wa-Tanwir of Ibn Ashur, and there was also another tafsir which went through some linguistic aspects of Surat Al Nahl. So I've included some of that as well. Inshallah, I'll try to share them. Now, some of this analysis might be easy to understand, and others might be a bit more difficult. But inshallah, I hope most Arabic students can understand most of what's happening. Let's start this, inshallah. Let's first of all imagine if somebody like Ammar bin Yasir was listening to this, and it mentioned those who commit disbelief, and then mentions the punishment. This is not appropriate to the siyaq, to the situation. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does actually, He mentions the most important thing first, which is Man kafara billah min ba'di imanihi, which is what Ammar bin Yasir was being accused of. So he was being accused of this. And then straight after this, the exception is given. That's where the importance lies. It comes in response to defending Ammar bin Yasir. So you notice the exception wasn't delayed. Like, for example, the ayat I showed you in Surat Al-Furqan. It was mentioned immediately to defend Ammar bin Yasir, radiyallahu anhu. You could imagine if you mentioned الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا and then mentioned a punishment without mentioning the exception. How would Ammar bin Yasir have felt by listening to this? He would have thought he was included from them. So Allah did not delay the exception. Now, one point, as we said, where's the jawab al-shart of man kafara billahi min ba'di imanihi? There are two opinions on this, depending if you're from the school of Basra or the school of Kufa. Both have almost the same opinion, with a slight difference. And they say that this jawab al-shart, فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. This is a jawab for man sharaha bil-kufri sadran and وَمَنْ كَفَرَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ بَعْدِ إِيمَانِهِ. So both of these conditional sentence have this response, the same one. And so instead of repeating it, it was mentioned once. The difference between the two schools is whether one can just say, this is a jawab for both, like how the school from Kufa say, while the school of Basra say, over here, there's an estimation. فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. So it depends how you look at it. Either way, we have this response, this jawab. There are examples of this given by the scholars, where you can have two shaitan and with one jawab, the same jawab. Now, this is from Tafsir al-Tabari, what he says regarding this ayah. فَجَوَابُهُمَا وَاحِدٌ. Their jawab, both of those conditions, have one response, which is فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. It's like the saying of the one who says, مَنْ يَأْتِنَا فَمَنْ يُحْسِنْ نُكْرِمْهُ. He who comes to us and then is good, shows goodness, we will honor him. And the ma'na of this is مَنْ يُحْسِنْ مِمَّنْ يَأْتِنَا نُكْرِمْهُ. So there's two conditions there and there's one jawab. So that's possible in the Arabic language. Okay? So that's the first point. He did not mention the punishment before mentioning the exception. As opposed to the ayah I showed you in Surat Al-Furqan. Because these people had committed evil. And it says, إِلَّا مَنْ تَابَ, except he who repents. Over here, Ammar bin Yasir did nothing wrong. So there's a difference. He mentions the exception first. Now let's get to a linguistic discussion of the rest of the ayah, inshallah. So in this condition, he talks about the outward, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه. So whoever disbelieves in Allah after his belief. He speaks later on about what goes inside these people who really disbelieve. But before mentioning these people, it mentions the state of people like Ammar bin Yasir. Here, it's speaking here of the inward. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ بِالْإِيمَانِ. And this is part of the linguistic eloquence and the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he actually talks about the internal state of people. Here it's talking about Ammar bin Yasir and the believers who are trialed and are persecuted for their faith. So here it's highlighting the outward state, and you could either fit into this category or this one here. We'll speak about this later. Either you're a believer or you truly are a disbeliever. Now, what we have here is the wow. This is the wow al-ibtida'. It starts a new sentence. And then it says, lakin. Let's talk about lakin. Let's look at these two sentences, inshallah. It says, جاء محمد ولكن ما جاء أخوه. So Muhammad came, however, his brother did not come. So lakin actually is used to express opposite meanings. Coming and not coming. And we can actually reverse it around and say, ما جاء محمد ولكن جاء أخوه. So Muhammad did not come, however, his brother came. You can't say جاء محمد ولكن جاء أخوه. That's wrong. So over here, what's happening, this lakin, it's used to express two opposite meanings. In the first shart, من كفر بالله من بعد إيمانه إلا من أكره, except he who is forced to renounce his religion while his heart is still secure or tranquil in faith. And then there's a contrast. So there's two opposite meanings. The first one is it's negating, or it's an exception, is the one who is forced to do it while his heart still has faith. And this is as opposed to the next part. من شرح بالكفر صدرا. So lakin is used to contrast between the two internal states. It's very interesting actually. Not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speak about external states of people, which is what human beings see, but he talks about the internal states of these people. Now, another point about this particle lakin is it has emphasis. It's one of the sisters of inna, and there's actually an omission of a damir, and it should be lakinna hu. This damir is omitted in the Arabic language. It's known as damir al-sha'n. It's a pronoun that's used not in the usual way that we're used to, but it's done to when you want to bring something that's important. Another example of this is in the shahada. We say ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. That an included with it is a damir after it, which is not mentioned. If you want to mention it, it's ashhadu anhu la ilaha illallah. But the Arabs understand that this exists and they don't mention it. So that's just a slight point there. So it's lakinnahu. So a translation of lakin would be, however, the important matter is man sharaha bil kufri sadran. This is the one who is worthy of the punishment, this person. And this is the attribute inside them. So there should be a hu, lakinna hu. And that's omitted with the lightened form of lakinna. So you can consider this as a full stop. However, the important matter is man sharaha bil kufri sadran. But whoever willingly opens their breast to disbelief, upon them is the wrath from Allah, and for them is a great punishment. So here, man sharaha. Now the word sharaha means to fully open something, to expose it. The ones who leave Islam after they have believed, it paints a picture of them opening their chests up. Sharaha bil kufri sadran. We'll talk about this structure It's an unusual structure, and we'll explain the reason why it was worded this particular way, inshallah. But the point is, the word sharaha is a complete opening of something. And the word sadr, chest or breast, is used with sharaha. And the reason why is because the sadr encompasses more and refers to more than the qalb. The qalb is more specific. When you open your chest up, when you open something up completely, the word sadr is used. When it comes to the believers, the word qalb was used. إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ. His heart is secure, tranquil, bil iman, with faith. The qalb is the part that has faith in it. The qalb is also the part that gets sick and diseased and becomes dark. And as we said, the sadr is the part that you open up to Islam, for example, to submission, or in this case, to kufr. Man sharaha bil kufri sadran. So let's go on. Now, as we said, what it should have been, this is mentioned in tafsir books, what the taqdeer of walakin man sharaha bil kufri sadran. It's estimated to be walakin man sharaha bil kufri sadrahu. So this dhamir here, his chest. But this has been omitted. Sadr is no longer the maf'ul bihi. It's a tamyiz. So the tamyiz takes the place of the maf'ul bihi. This is possible to do. Now, what's the point of doing this? This is a very interesting structure. Because the difference between this sadr and this sadr is this is indefinite and this is definite. One of the functions of indefiniteness is what's known in Arabic as at-tahqir, is to express disgust at something, to show how vile it is. So here, sadr, this person's sadr, the one who rejects faith after he has believed, and this person, what he does is he opens up his chest fully for kufr to enter. So this is what this person does completely, and we'll understand the reason why he does this later on, inshallah. But this is the picture that it portrays of these people that have believed and they disbelieve. Now let's contrast between the internal state of the believer and the internal state of the disbeliever. This is beautifully captured. I've put a V for verb or verbal sentence and an N for nominal sentence. Now, I have lessons on this. You can go to my lessons on the difference between nominal and verbal sentences and how they're used and the meanings they give. Now, one of the things you realize, verbal sentences are used for a temporary period of time. They are acts which occur in a particular period of time, while the noun or the nominal sentence talk about permanent states. That's one of the usages. That's what's happening here. Over here, it says the exception, إِلَّا مَنْ أُكْرِهَ, except he who is forced. So this force occurs at a specific point in time, the time when they're being tortured or being persecuted. So here the verb was used. And then after this it mentions the state or a permanent state. وَقَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ, and his heart is tranquil, bil iman. So قَلْبُهُ مُطْمَئِنٌ, and this denotes that this state not only occurs while he's being forced, but it's occurred before he was forced and it occurs after he was forced. This tranquility exists all the time, and that's the usage there of the nominal sentence. However, notice here, man sharaha bil kufri sadran. So he opens his breast for kufr, and he's really engrossed in this kufr. But this doesn't last. Sharaha, he does not use the word mutma'in for the kafir, because kufr will never give you the tranquility that a believer has. So initially, he opens himself up to kufr. He has an expansion, but this doesn't last. And then he feels the constriction, the uneasiness inside him. And this is captured in other ayat from the Quran. So subhanAllah, you see the internal states contrasted there. Now, the final thing I want to mention is just the response to the condition. فَعَلَيْهِمْ غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. These kuffar, the ones who do this, who leave Islam, and they open their chest up for kufr, upon them is غَضَبٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ. So these people, you can just imagine this. Every day they're reading Surat Al in their salah. صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِينَ. They're asking not to be from those al-maghdubi alayhim. And then they leave Islam and open themselves up to kufr. So appropriately, the ghadab of Allah will be upon them. And then it says, وَلَهُمْ. And for them specifically, this is like a specific punishment for them. وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And for them is a great punishment. So the punishment of those who believe and then disbelieve is much greater than those who just disbelieve. There are levels of punishment, especially for those who have tasted the tranquility, those who have tasted halawatul iman, and then they leave this and become disbelievers. It's a great punishment. Now, the Quran doesn't just leave it there, because you ask yourself, how could somebody do this? You know, it's such a great thing. It's like for Muslims to think of this, how could somebody do this? What is it that caused them to do this? Here, they're opening themselves up to kufr. As opposed to, for example, the believers here who are being forced to renounce their faith. Over here, there's no compulsion. They're opening up their breast completely for kufr to enter. Why is it that they're doing this? Let's read the next ayah. So the next ayah says, ذَلِكَ. Notice here, ذَلِكَ. It's showing how grave this thing is, ذَلِكَ. It's something so far off, like you wouldn't even think it. ذَلِكَ. That's why ذَلِكَ is used there. ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ استحبوا الحياة الدنيا. That is because they preferred the worldly life. على الآخرة. So they put the worldly life on top of it. وأن الله لا يهدي القوم الكافرين. And Allah does not guide the disbelieving people. So, what caused them to be like this was their love of this dunya. And this is actually what the Prophet ﷺ warned us of. He told us that he feared this for his ummah. He didn't fear poverty for the ummah. He feared when this dunya takes a hold of one and they become engrossed in it and they leave the religion. And that's what's happening today. It's all these desires and pleasures in this world, and over time it takes control of one. And then after this, it talks about the heart of these disbelievers. أولئك الذين طبع الله على قلوبهم وسمعهم وأبصارهم وأولئك هم الغافلون. He's put a seal on their hearts and their hearing and their seeing. And it is those that are heedless. They become heedless. And when you get into kufr, what does Allah say in the Quran? زُيِّنَ لِلَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا الْحَيَاةَ الدُّنْيَا. So when you commit kufr, the dunya becomes more beautiful. It becomes more adorned. He makes it adorned and beautiful. And this is why they chase after it. They'll do anything to get the extra dollar. And we always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not for the dunya to be akbara hammina, for it not to be the biggest of worries. Now, I specifically done this lesson for the Muslims who have been affected by listening to this person, Hassan Radwan, Hadahu Allah wa iyana. And that completes the lesson. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.